Greetings. My name is Shriram Natarajan, and I'm a product manager on the Azure Edge infrastructure team. In the recent months, I've had the opportunity to interact with many organizations who are looking to migrate their workloads away from their on-premises VMware infrastructure, either because they want to modernize their applications or they're seeing significant cost increases. These customers are looking for potential Azure solutions to both help them on this journey and to ensure their business continues to be successful in this modern infrastructure. Well, I'm happy to report that Microsoft not only has the solutions to migrate your workloads, but also is the only company with technologies uniquely positioned to help you be successful regardless of where your workloads are running, be it in the Azure cloud, at the edge, or even in other clouds. Whether you're looking to modernize your infrastructure or considering a migration from VMware due to costs, you've got the power of Microsoft solutions at your disposal. Here's the plan for our session today. We'll start from the top with Microsoft's adaptive cloud vision and how Azure Arc enables it. This will help you understand how we look at the edge and our strategy to help you seamlessly integrate your environments into Azure. We will then discuss Azure Stack HCI and how it fits into the adaptive cloud vision. Migrating to it, and we'll also discuss some differentiating features of the product that makes it an ideal fit for you. For those of you that want to remain on VMware and not quite ready to migrate yet, and still want access to cloud innovation on your infrastructure, we've got the feature-rich Arc-enabled vSphere that you can leverage. We'll conclude the discussion with some customer examples. While companies are able to and do move most of their workloads to the public cloud, they still need to keep some apps running locally due to a variety of reasons, maybe for data residency, or the data needs to be processed right next to where it's generated, like in an assembly line, or critical scenarios where losing outbound network connectivity is detrimental to their business. So the need to stay on premises is real, and we'll discuss how Azure Arc is best suited to help with this. This discussion isn't just about migrations out of VMware. It is also about showcasing how you can thrive when you get into a Microsoft ecosystem. Our goal is to make sure you and your businesses are successful with our products, drive your business your way, and also do not get impacted in the future should an unexpected change happen. This is a discussion of how you can innovate anywhere with Azure. Okay, let's start from the top. In today's rapidly changing world, companies need many products to adapt effectively to growing needs. This is why multi-cloud and hybrid cloud environments are increasingly popular, and most organizations' IT investments have grown organically over time. And the way this generally works is that the shift from your on-premises systems to cloud-based or edge-based deployments is gradual. I often tell people that this is like changing the engines on a plane when it's flying at 10,000 feet in the air. This complexity, combined with the unique characteristics of your existing systems and legacy infrastructure, forces this journey into multiple separate time-bound projects, each with a particular goal and target. Now, you do a great job of achieving each project's goals, but zooming out, you've invested in so many diverse technologies. You're now dealing with an explosion of resources from servers and devices in the operational edge and IoT, and often across multiple cloud deployments. Basic tasks like patching, configuring, securing can get exponentially harder with every new location and technology you add. Rapid innovation is happening in every business unit, often in an uncoordinated way, leading to duplicated effort and increased financial and security risk. And over time, these silos unintentionally limits your team's impact by entrenching them in a single project or a single tech stack. This all collectively leads up to technical debt, with the proliferation of short-term solutions and no comprehensive long-term strategy. I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, it's just the way it is. However, we believe with a comprehensive strategy and the right tools, these challenges that you have can be effectively managed. Microsoft can help. What if there was a way for you to go from a reactive position to a proactive stance where you can just account for these changes and diversity? Our customers are increasingly seeking advancements in modularity, integration, and simplicity. We firmly believe that these aspirations can be realized through a transformative methodology that we call the adaptive cloud. Our adaptive cloud approach is built around helping you anticipate and respond to shifts in market dynamics and emerging technological trends. Now, we know that cloud migration is not a one-size-fits-all proposition. We understand that every organization is unique with its own set of requirements, skills, and data center investments. That is why we're providing an agile and flexible approach to migration to give you cloud on your terms, whether it is moving to Azure IaaS or PaaS, or moving large VMware workloads to your AVS solution, or extending management and security to hybrid and multi-cloud environments. With this flexible approach, you get a consistent way to manage all your infrastructure and apps, no matter where they reside. And no matter what you choose to do, with Azure, you can feel confident that we have you covered. A key enabler for this approach is Azure Arc, which enables you to connect your on-prem assets to the cloud, provides a single pane of glass management through the Azure Portal, and provides you with guidance, tooling, frameworks, and expert support for various scenarios ranging from workload migrations all the way up to innovation with AI. You can invest in platforms of your choice and the technologies that will help you succeed, and you will be able to leverage Azure as a common innovation and operations platform to manage all of these consistently. Azure Arc is used by over 30,000 active customers and growing. Analysts such as Gartner have stated that Microsoft is the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Strategic Cloud Platform Services, or SCPS. They've ranked Microsoft ahead of AWS for the past 2 years because of our commitment to Azure Arc and meeting customers where they are. Our competitors simply don't have the vision or product truth like we do in this space. Let me pause here and summarize what we've discussed until now. So you're looking to move out of your VMware infrastructure, and you would like to know the various options available from Microsoft. Many customers require a hybrid approach, migrating many workloads to the Azure VMware solution, while modernizing others natively to Azure IaaS and PaaS. If you have workloads that must remain on-premises, Azure Arc enables you to do so and still be able to bring the innovation in the cloud to your infrastructure. Our goal with these on-premises options is not to replace your data center, but to provide solutions that function effectively at the edge. For specific on-premises scenarios where cloud migration isn't feasible, but there is a desire to transition away from VMware, even if that involves refactoring, Azure Stack HCI is a great solution. HCI offers a cloud-connected, hyper-converged infrastructure that uses the Azure management and security plane across environments. And if for some reason Azure Stack HCI isn't an option for you, Windows Server is absolutely a choice. It has been battle-tested and can support much larger deployments as well. For workloads that need to stay on VMware infrastructure, Azure Arc for VMware vSphere offers an extendable solution. It enhances your vSphere environments with Azure's robust security, governance, and management features, and also enables self-service access for VMware vSphere resources. It facilitates full virtual machine lifecycle operations through Azure as well. Azure Arc connects across these options, providing a common management plane that supports innovation everywhere with consistent development and operations and security practices. So after you've minimized your VMware footprint, you can enjoy the same management and security on premises with Azure Arc. Now, let's zoom in on Azure Stack HCI. Azure Stack HCI is the first and best implementation of an Arc-enabled infrastructure solution from Microsoft. The platform enables you to run your VM and container-based workloads on premises and consume Azure Services easily. HCI delivers 3 key value propositions. First, it serves as a bridge between your on-premises and cloud and allows customers to run cloud-native apps on-premises delivered through Azure Arc. Customers can connect multiple clusters to the cloud and leverage the management capabilities from within the Azure Portal to manage their fleet of devices. This connectivity also enables them to leverage Azure services both running in the cloud, such as Azure Monitor and Azure Defender, as well as those that can be deployed on their infrastructure, like AKS, Azure Kubernetes Services, and SQL. Since all of this is powered by Azure Resource Manager in the cloud, customers are able to use the same DevOps tools and practices to manage their applications in both the cloud and at the edge. Second, HCI is delivered as an Azure service. Customers are able to subscribe to HCI just as they would for any Azure offering. The customers are charged per physical core per month, and the consumption shows up as a part of their Azure bill. This key benefit provides flexibility to manage cost and come up with a great growth strategy. And just as you would for an Azure service, customers can get a single support model for both the cloud and their on-prem environments through Microsoft. Third, customers can get a number of flexible deployment options with Azure Stack HCI. It scales from 1 node to 16 nodes and is ideal for distributed edge deployments such as retail stores and factory floors. It can survive a disconnect from the cloud intermittently and up to a period of about 30 days. The workloads on the HCI deployment, though, will continue running during this period. Next, let's look at some of the use cases for HCI. In terms of use cases, there are about 4 to 5 things that we can discuss. Customers can use it to modernize and secure their data center with enterprise-grade virtualization and security. Customers can affordably run intelligent edge and remote branch solutions by providing the appropriate infrastructure for these kinds of environments. They can leverage the low price per core and switchless deployment capability and a true 2-node deployment. Our competitive solutions typically start at 3. Customers can get the industry best performance for SQL Server VMs on Azure Stack HCI as demonstrated through TPC benchmarks. Microsoft owns the end-to-end stack for SQL Server and can provide better optimization of SQL Server workloads on HCI. We've seen results of SQL Server running with a higher performance on Azure Stack HCI, even higher than some VMware environments. Customers can deploy cloud-native apps, and Azure Arc enables Azure Services on them. Using AKS on HCI provides a Kubernetes platform to take cloud apps and run them as containers on premises. AKS is also the key enabler for the deployment of all Azure Arc-enabled services on premises. Lastly, customers can get the best-in-class virtual desktop experiences with Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI. So if you have customers on platforms such as VMware Horizon or Citrix that would like to transition out, AVD on Azure Stack HCI is a great option to think about. We've talked so much about Azure Arc and how HCI is the first and best implementation of it. What does that really mean? Are they really that inseparable? Indeed. Azure Arc is basically at the heart of HCI platform, and as such is integrated in every single layer. Right from our cloud-based deployment, where an on-prem HCI server shows up as an Arc resource immediately after provisioning and is ready for deployment. Once your HCI is deployed, customers can deploy various resources such as virtual machines, Azure Kubernetes clusters, and SQL directly from the Azure Portal through Arc. These deployed resources also now appear in the Azure Portal via Arc as well, so customers can manage them securely and integrate with other Azure services. Specialty services such as Azure Copilot and supplemental services such as observability and support are integrated by default through Azure Arc as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, Azure Arc powers HCI through and through. Now that we've taken a high-level overview, let's dig in a bit more and look at some simplified architecture of Azure Stack HCI. We will start from the bottom and work our way to the top of this picture. Azure Stack HCI is built on an OEM hardware of choice. Customers can pick from over 250 validated platforms from various OEMs such as HPE, Dell, Lenovo, Dataon, and so on according to their budget and needs. Above the hardware sits the virtualization layer. The main component of this tier is the HCI operating system, which is based on Windows Server and Hyper-V, and serves as the base for our software-defined infrastructure components that provide deployment and lifecycle management, SDN, and storage spaces direct. Security and identity are not add-ons in this platform. They come built right in, and they're integrated with every layer of the stack. These components together will help you deploy the necessary IaaS, which will host first-party and third-party workloads. All of these components remain on-premises and are connected to the control plane in Azure through Azure Arc. This connection enables them to leverage various Azure services, Azure tooling, and governance to manage their infrastructure. So that's a lot of boxes on that slide. Let me summarize. The critical points to note here are: Azure Stack HCI is a general-purpose compute infrastructure that will let customers run any workload that can leverage it. 2. Azure Stack HCI comes as a complete end-to-end infrastructure stack where all the components are deployed, updated, and supported together. 3. Azure Arc enables a consolidated cloud-based management experience for applications all the way down to the infrastructure using standard Azure tools. And 4. The customers have the choice and flexibility to run this stack on a hardware form factor and price point of their choice. All right, let's jump into a quick demo to show you some HCI functionality. The scenario we're about to see is of a fictional company. Let's call them Contoso. Contoso has modernized container-based applications and some traditional VM-based applications. We'll take a look at how they can deploy a Kubernetes cluster and a virtual machine on their Azure Stack HCI deployment in their Seattle location. The Azure Kubernetes service is built in. It is automatically installed and ready for you to use it. And you can provision Kubernetes clusters straight from Azure Arc. Just select the cluster, like Seattle, and right under there, get started, and you can deploy an AKS hybrid cluster. We'll click Deploy to go into a guided workflow, choose the subscription and resource group, and give the Kubernetes cluster a name, and we specify which Azure Stack HCI cluster we want to target. Contoso has built an app to use Kubernetes for availability and scale-out, so we'll give it a Kubernetes node pool of 3 virtual nodes and generate a key pair for management. This application is Linux-based, so we'll use the built-in Linux container host image provided by the Azure Kubernetes service for access. And check this out. Contoso can natively use Microsoft Entra, previously known as Azure Active Directory, so they can use their existing Contoso admins group for access control. For networking, we leave the defaults. Ditto for Azure Monitor and for tags. And with that, we're ready to review and create. Deployment will, of course, take a few minutes. We can fast forward until it completes, and then we can navigate back to the Azure Arc and see our first Arc-enabled Kubernetes cluster. This Kubernetes cluster is a first-class Azure resource, which means Contoso can templatize it and automate it using the Azure Resource Manager. Now, let's take a look at deploying a Windows virtual machine. We can see that there aren't any general-purpose VMs yet. The first step to create a VM is to create a virtual machine image. Contoso's requirements are pretty generic, so for simplicity, we can just use the Windows Server image from the Azure Marketplace gallery. We'll give the image a name, select the image to use. In this case, we will choose Windows Server 2022, and then select where to store it locally, and then review and create. Behind the scenes, the image we selected is essentially being downloaded from Azure into the Seattle store. We can track the progress in the Azure Portal from this location. Once it's downloaded, we're ready to create a virtual machine. In the left menu, go to the Virtual Machines tab and select Create Virtual Machine. In the workflow, we first give the VM a name. The custom location and kind are set for us. Next, we can choose the security type. We'll just go with the standard for now and then choose the image that we downloaded. If we needed to meet specific requirements, we could specify vCPUs and memory. And then we'll give the administrator username and password for the VM. We don't need any additional data disks, but the VM certainly will need a network interface which we can name and connect to the logical network in the store. and we'll just let DHCP assign the IP address. Click Next. We don't need any tags, and now we're ready to create. Now, as ever, we can fast forward through the deployment, and when it's done, we can go to the resource group and take a look at our VM. Now you can probably guess where this is going. Just like the Kubernetes cluster, and for that matter, like everything in Azure Arc, notice what we provisioned is an Azure Arc-enabled resource. Now that's really powerful because it means out of the box, automatically, this VM has most of the same management features as an Azure Cloud VM. Take a look. Everything from security to policy to machine configuration and auto-manage is all right here. In Azure, a common pattern is to use a custom script extension to deploy an app into a VM. And because our VM is Azure Arc enabled, Contoso can just use that same approach. Here, in the left menu, we go into Extensions and choose a custom script extension for Windows. Select the script file which Contoso has stored in an Azure storage account. There it is. Deploy the PS1 file and then review and create in Azure Resource Manager. Running the script is actually modeled as yet another resource deployment, which means even this can be templatized through Azure Resource Manager. Okay, with the deployment done, Contoso has deployed their legacy point-of-sale app to the Seattle store. We can see the VM under Azure Arc under machines neatly tucked away into its own group that distinguishes it from our bare metal host machines. That's a really powerful demo because it demonstrates a few key innovations that will enhance the way you write and manage applications in Azure. First is simply the single pane of glass from the Azure Portal where you're able to manage your cloud and edge assets in the same experience. You can also bring in workloads from other clouds into this experience. Second is that the resources created are automatically Arc-enabled and benefit from the vast array of cloud services in Azure for management and security. Third, while HCI is a cloud-connected infrastructure, all the workloads you deploy run on-premises. This is a key differentiating point for HCI. Now let's click down one more level and look at some more of these capabilities in detail. Azure Stack HCI, the whole stack can be deployed directly from the Azure Portal through a streamlined wizard. Additionally, this process is templatizable, so you can take what you did for one cluster and then deploy many more consistently and repeatably. A single deployment action can deploy everything from the infrastructure all the way up to the virtualization layer with VMs and Kubernetes. Now, as you deploy multiple purpose-built HCI clusters, the fleet management capabilities offered by Azure Update Manager provide a wonderful way for you to manage updates across tens, even thousands of HCI clusters located around the world. This and many more capabilities to manage infrastructure at scale are directly available to you from the Azure Portal. Once we've deployed the infrastructure, now it's time to deploy the workloads. Let's start with virtual machines. Virtual machines on Azure Stack HCI come Arc-enabled out of the box and show up in your Azure Portal, as you saw in the demo. You can enable guest management capabilities to run Azure Arc extensions either during VM creation or post-VM creation, also something you saw in the demo. And since Arc is the fundamental enabler for HCI, the complete catalog of Arc extensions is supported on VMs on Azure Stack HCI. Customers can use out-of-the-box Azure Marketplace images or use their own images located on an Azure storage account or locally on their HCI cluster. There is a lot of flexibility here. Standard Azure governance features are applicable to HCI as well. You can assign granular role-based access control for HCI administrators and VM users in addition to the standard out-of-the-box Azure RBAC roles. Lastly, you can leverage templatization using ARM and Bicep templates for scaling out deployments consistently across multiple edge locations. Next, let's move on to containers. Not only are Arc VMs built into HCI, AKS is as well. There are 4 key highlights about AKS on Azure Stack HCI that I'd like to call out. All AKS hybrid infrastructure components are installed as a part of Azure Stack HCI deployment through a single deploy action. Additionally, the Azure Stack HCI platform updates include AKS hybrid components as well and get them updated along with the platform. AKS supports Windows and Linux containers, and customers can create any new Kubernetes clusters directly from the Azure Portal using a streamlined cloud management experience like we saw in the demo. Lastly, the unified resource model also aligns well with rich Arc extension support. As customers deploy resources, they can then use Azure Services for security and governance. Services such as Azure Policy, Azure Update Center, Azure Defender, etc. are available for Arc-enabled VMs on Azure Stack HCI. The enhanced Azure Monitor integration offers a comprehensive monitoring capability by providing native Azure metrics and alerts specifically for the cluster infrastructure. This integration allows for a complete 360-degree visibility and real-time monitoring of system performance, helping you ensure that the infrastructure remains robust and responsive to the demands placed on it. At Microsoft, we believe security is not just a feature, but a vital part of all the products that we build. Azure Stack HCI is built with the secure by default mindset and adheres to the highest standards of security practices as set by Azure. The out-of-the-box security baseline set for HCI is 96% compliant to the Azure security baseline, and we're constantly working on driving that number up. Customers will be able to get a security-focused view of their assets from the Azure Portal with recommendations to remediate as needed. Along the same lines of security, Azure Stack HCI includes the option to deploy virtual machines with Azure Trusted Launch. Azure Trusted Launch is designed to protect virtual machines and ensures that the security enhancement don't disrupt the workflows by providing full support for failover and live migration, just as with standard VMs. This enhancement allows organizations to maintain a high security standard without sacrificing operational flexibility. Azure Virtual Desktop is also available on Azure Stack HCI. AVD enables secure operation of virtualized desktop and applications using Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access, and multi-factor authentication. The AVD deployment is simplified. It eliminates the needs to manage brokers, gateways, or underlying servers and storage. The Azure Portal offers a unified deployment experience. You can see a theme here. And customers can choose to deploy AVD host pools either in the Azure region or on Azure Stack HCI. User profile management is enhanced with FS Logics and image management through MSIX App Attach, supporting both Windows 11 and Windows 10 in multi-session formats. Customers can plan and size their infrastructure deployments effectively using the Azure Stack HCI Sizer tool. Additional features include single sign-on and passwordless authentication for ease of access, private link for secure connectivity, RDP short path to minimize latency for sensitive workloads, and watermarking for security. AVD also provides an optimized experience for Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams, ensuring seamless integration and high performance in collaborative environments. If you're a VMware Horizon customer, you can rest assured that migrating to AVD on HCI is a great option. It is consistent with AVD in the cloud as well. So you're following the same strategy across the cloud and the edge. Last, but certainly not the least, Azure Migrate is available for enabling customers migrate their VMs from Hyper-V or VMware to Azure Stack HCI. Pre-migration preparation is minimal, as no setup is required on the guest virtual machines, and the tooling natively integrates with vCenter APIs, and an optional graceful shutdown feature helps prevent any data loss during the migration process. The tool supports a wide range of guest operating systems, including Windows Server versions all the way from 2008 R2 and many Linux distributions. Data integrity is maintained throughout the process, and the data moves directly from the on-premises source, which is your VMware cluster, to your on-premises target, which is the Azure Stack HCI cluster, without going through Azure. This ensures that all the information and data remain under your control. This is currently in preview and is scheduled to be generally available later in the year. As I mentioned before, Customers can buy Azure Stack HCI through our various device partners. You can browse a list of available hardware configurations through the HCI catalog. We have three main tiers of hardware that spans from customer-built clusters to fully integrated full-stack options. The first tier is called Validated Nodes, which offers the broadest choice of hardware components. You can select from individually validated hardware from over 30 partners, or alternatively, you may be able to reuse your existing validated hardware as long as it meets the criteria. You can engage with SI partners for deployment and integration as needed. The second tier of solutions are called integrated systems, which are single-purpose systems built with pre-installed software. The hardware in this tier is delivered to customers pre-installed and secured by default. Customers will get validated full-stack updates and OEM-provided native hardware management tools to effectively operate their infrastructure. The hardware in this tier and the one after this are regularly validated by both the OEM partners and Microsoft for ongoing reliability. The third and the most integrated tier of HCI is called the Premier Solutions tier. These are turnkey HCI solutions that provide the highest levels of automations and is built with the deepest levels of engineering collaboration between Microsoft and the OEM partner. This tier comes with an end-to-end deployment workflow that makes it easy to deploy one or more clusters. We have a robust Azure Stack HCI catalog that offers a comprehensive listing of hardware solutions for deploying Azure Stack HCI. This resource helps you choose the best hardware for your hybrid cloud infrastructure needs. We also have an Azure Stack HCI Sizer. It is a tool that helps you estimate the required hardware for your Azure Stack HCI deployments. It provides customized recommendations based on specific workloads and performance needs, ensuring optimal resource allocation. You can even use the Sizer to estimate the footprint required for your AVD deployment. The Sizer links back to the catalog, so once you've entered all of your workload information and arrived at the required footprint, the Sizer can show you the appropriate entries from the catalog that will fit your needs. Azure Stack HCI's pricing model combines flexibility, predictability, and integration with existing Azure services to offer a comprehensive solution for modernizing on-prem infrastructure. You will also be able to leverage cloud benefits with Azure Stack HCI. HCI has a straightforward billing model based on the number of physical processor cores in the deployment. The price is $10 per core per month. This flat rate billing simplifies cost prediction and management regardless of the number of virtual machines or containers you run on those cores. This does not include guest OS licensing, which is dependent on the workloads that you're running. Billing is integrated into your Azure subscription, providing a unified, itemized monthly statement and supports various Azure services like AKS and other Arc-enabled services. Organizations with Windows Server Data Center licenses and Active Software Assurance, or SA, can take advantage of the Azure Hybrid benefit. With SA, you can deploy HCI practically for free since every core license entitles you to one physical core of Azure Stack HCI. And HCI inherits the support costs from your Azure subscription. It is recommended to have at least a standard support plan, which covers the infrastructure under your existing Azure support agreements. Cost for other Azure services utilized alongside your Azure Stack HCI, like the Arc-enabled services or AKS, like I mentioned before, are billed separately based on usage. You have a ton of options to choose Azure Stack HCI hardware that aligns with your needs. Hardware comes in various sizes and form factors, and the pricing is identical regardless of what OEM solution you use. There is no minimum or maximum price, and billing just starts at 1 core per day and goes on until you use the product. If you're coming in from a VMware ecosystem, you will actually see a reduction in price with HCI because you're both moving to newer, better hardware and can use the opportunity to consolidate and modernize your applications. This, coupled with the fact that the predictive per core pricing with software assurance, will make migrating to HCI a great decision. If migrating out of VMware infrastructure isn't an option for you just yet, and you would like to still leverage Azure innovation on-premises, you can Arc-enable your vSphere instance. Azure Arc for VMware vSphere empowers organizations to extend Azure's powerful governance and management capabilities to their VMware environments, creating a unified management experience. By connecting your VMware vCenter server to Azure Arc, you can automatically discover and inventory your existing VMware resources, ensuring continuous synchronization and up-to-date inventory data. Deploying the Azure Arc agent at scale across your VMware VMs enables the use of Azure services like Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Azure Monitor, and Azure Update Manager. This integration allows you to perform VM lifecycle operations such as provisioning, resizing, adding or updating disks and NICs, and managing VM power states directly from the Azure portal. Additionally, Azure Arc facilitates robust management services, applying Azure Policy for compliance, Azure Security Center for security, and Azure Monitor for monitoring and insights. This ensures consistent management and security across your hybrid cloud environments. You can leverage existing VMware investments while enhancing agility and operational efficiency. Let's explore how you can use Arc-enabled VMware vSphere to utilize Azure Management Services at scale for your VMs. Firstly, with Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, you can connect an entire environment managed by a vCenter server rather than one machine at a time. You can connect one or more vCenters to Azure. These can be running anywhere, in your data center, in your Azure AVS solution, or even other public clouds like VMware Cloud on AWS or Google VMware Engine. Arc-enabled VMware vSphere provides you with an automatically updating inventory of your vSphere resources synced to Azure, virtual machines, hosts, clusters, and virtual networks, etc. With Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, you can install Arc Agent at scale on many machines at once to get your whole environment onboarded to Azure Management. Once the Arc Agent is installed on the VMs, you can take advantage of Azure Services to secure, govern, and monitor them consistently with Azure, including managing security updates for your Windows Server and SQL Server. You can leverage the management services portfolio offered by Azure like Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Azure Monitor, Update Management, and others. You can also perform lifecycle operations such as start, stop, create, scale, resize, and delete your VMware vSphere VMs that are hosted in your data center or on AVS, including the VMware Cloud on AWS. All these activities are governed by Azure RBAC, enabling you and your teams to perform VM operations in a self-service fashion. With Azure Control Plane as the single place of control, you can browse all of your VMs across all of your data centers and discover and onboard new VMware VMs to Azure. Here is Azure, and you can see that I have a vSphere 7 and a vSphere 6.7 cluster attached below. The first step is creating an inventory of the virtual machines. So I'm going to enable vCenter inventory in Azure. Here, you will see my vSphere deployment. Now, there's no Arc enablement just yet. This is just a stock VMware deployment. And you'll notice that there is 500 plus virtual machines in this deployment. So this is not just a pedantic couple of servers. This is a big cluster. Now, wouldn't it be great if I could just select these and install the Arc agent on all of them? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to check the checkbox and enable it in Azure. And I'm going to come over here to enable guest management. And just like that, it installs the Arc agent on all of those virtual machines. And now you can see that again, I'm in the Azure portal, but now you can see that it says VMware virtual machines. Keep in mind that this is running on premises, just like you saw with the HCI deployment. This is running in your data center, this is running in your manufacturing plant, and this is running in your branch office, wherever. But I can see them now in the Azure portal, which means I can do things like adding Azure Policy to these VMs. If you go up into Azure, one of the great things about it is that it allows you to apply policies across your servers. Maybe your file servers have a certain policy, while your domain controllers have another. Maybe you have a policy that needs to extend across all of your servers, such as a minimum TLS version. For example, they need to run TLS 1.3, and you not allow anything prior to that, such as 1.1 or 1.0. Great. Push that policy to every server. Now, if an admin comes in later and accidentally changes it back to 1.0, it will automatically alert you, and you can automatically have it fixed, and the problem can be remediated. Now, all of a sudden, you can apply that policy to your VMs running outside of Azure as well. And the best yet, Azure includes a bunch of these policies out of the box, so you do not have to create or come up with any policies to get started. And there are some that are specific for manufacturing, retailers, and much more. You can pick and choose, and if we don't have something that you need, you can create your own as well. So you can use Azure Arc-enabled VMware vSphere to manage all of your VMware workloads that remain on premises, and also manage your VMs in the cloud through Azure Arc, and conduct a full virtual machine lifecycle operation through Azure in a single place. Now, let's take a look at some of our real-world customers. Siemens Healthineers delivers digital services to cloud-connected customers through TeamPlay Digital Health Platform, a software platform it developed and manages in Microsoft Azure. The problem is that Siemens Healthineers needed to keep the process and patient data on premises due to varying data privacy rules and bandwidth limitations. This hindered the efficiency of their TeamPlay Digital Health platform. The solution they came up with is using Azure Arc. Siemens Healthineers can deploy and manage applications on Kubernetes clusters across thousands of locations, ensuring secure and efficient operations. This allows them to deliver software as a service to the edge within customers' networks while managing infrastructure from Azure. The impact of this is that it is a game changer for Siemens Healthineers. It enables them to continuously deliver Kubernetes workloads from the cloud to the edge, providing their customers with flexible, scalable solutions that comply with stringent data privacy requirements. Okay, let's take a look at another customer, SKF. The problem here is SKF needed to modernize and transform their 91 work sites to enhance innovation, achieve cost savings, and address compliance challenges related to data latency, resiliency, and sovereignty. The solution SKF came up with is that they partnered with Microsoft to leverage Azure hybrid solutions, including Azure Stack HCI for scalable virtual workloads, Azure Arc-enabled SQL managed instance for consistent data management, and Azure IoT and SQL Edge for edge compute and intelligence. This comprehensive stack allows SKF to implement a hybrid topology that enhances agility and consistency across cloud and edge environments while modernizing their infrastructure. The impact here is that this modernization effort enables SKF to manage costs more efficiently, reduce machinery-related IT/OT downtime by about 30%, and lowers costs approximately 40%. The strong partnership with Microsoft supports SKF's digital transformation journey, enabling them to scale changes while keeping applications running uninterrupted. Looking ahead, SKF plans to explore solutions incorporating Azure machine learning to further optimize their manufacturing processes. We are truly excited to be the partner with SKF on their digital transformation journey, and we look to bringing more Azure innovation to our customers. All right, let's take a look at one more customer, Greggs. Greggs needed to modernize and secure their IT estate accumulated over numerous acquisitions to ensure data security and operational efficiency across their 2,200 shops and 24,000 employees. Greggs partnered with Microsoft to deploy Azure Arc-based solutions that simplifies managing and securing their hybrid and multi-cloud environments. They implemented Log Analytics Workspace Insights to heighten visibility and used Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to strengthen their security. Azure Arc enabled them to manage 500 servers across on-premises and cloud environments seamlessly, deploying patches and updates efficiently. The impact that this caused was the Azure Arc deployment reduced IT operational efforts, allowing the IT team to focus on value-added activities. Greggs achieved approximately 40% lower hardware-related costs and 30% reduction in machinery-related IT/OT downtime. This modernization effort ensures services are always available for customers and enhances their security and operational efficiency. Wow, we've covered quite a bit of ground here. Let me summarize. Azure is uniquely positioned to help you with your VMware migrations. You can use AVS and Azure native IaaS and PaaS for migrating to the cloud, and Azure Arc for VMware vSphere, and Azure Stack HCI for on-premises migrations. Azure Stack HCI is a cloud-native infrastructure offered on-premises on hardware of your choice. HCI offers VMs, Kubernetes, and natively integrates with Azure Arc to provide cloud management and Azure Services. You have a flexible billing model that allows for planning and growth. We have over 250 validated platforms from our OEM partners. Arc enabled your vSphere to leverage Azure Services natively on VMware. You have at-scale management and inventory of your VMware assets available to you in the Azure Portal, lifecycle operations for your VMware VMs available at your fingertips, either through the portal or through the Azure Resource Manager. Microsoft has the broadest portfolio of options across cloud and on-premises to meet you where you're at in your cloud journey. And with these options, we're able to deliver a differentiated adaptive cloud that can be tailored to fit your business needs. Thank you for listening. My name is Shriram Natarajan, and this has been a session about hybrid cloud options for VMware workloads.